Page 2 now, unconstitutional presidential amnesty and tax refunds. That's right, the IRS is now confirming that illegals who have never filed a tax return are eligible for a tax refund, including millions of illegals granted amnesty by Obama. Is this a great country or what? Now, the injunction against unlawful amnesty is being fought by the Justice Department and in Congress, an effort to financially starve the DOJ's legal fight.
This Congress has 3 times voted to reject the president's initiative, and the debate has been centered on constitutional grounds. The position of this Congress has 3 times been that the President of the United States is the leader of the executive branch of this government, and the legislative powers are all vested here in this United States Congress, in a House and in a Senate. That is Article 1 of the Constitution. That is what the President taught through his 10 years as an adjunct professor, a constitutional law professor at the University of Chicago, and that is what he also uttered at least 22 times as President of the United States, that he didn't have the authority to establish and advance an executive amnesty that would waive the application of the law for some 5 million people.
So it's a nice idea to try and starve the DOJ, but when there is a rogue president in the Oval Office who will simply divert funds and usurp the law, what's the point? Joining me now, attorney and legal analyst Parwana Anwar. Parwana, let's go back to the injunction. Right now, the case is still pending in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. The DOJ lost the emergency appeal for a stay of the injunction, but is still circulating and percolating in that court, correct?
That's correct. At this point, there was an injunction by the Texas district judge in February, and the president tried to have a stay, an emergency stay of that injunction. That was not successful. Right. And at this time, they will be hearing the actual appeal on the merits of the case on July 10th in front of Federal Appeals Court, the Fifth Circuit District Court. Now,
you're a former prosecutor, former DA, correct?
That's correct.
What do you think about this idea to try and defund the president's effort to defend what we consider unconstitutional, unlawful amnesty in court? You think that's a long shot, especially when you have a president who will probably try and veto or maybe work his way around this move?
Well, at this point, the GOP-led House did vote to pass that bill, and it was a bill that was written by a Republican representative from, I believe, Iowa. So they have voted to basically defund the Department of Justice's ability to appeal this case. I think it's just a way to try to, again, create a gridlock and not allow the courts to actually hear the merits of the appeal.
Now, you practice law now privately in Southern California. Obviously, Southern California is ground zero for illegal immigration. We have a report out that the latest batch of criminal illegal aliens that have been released by the Obama administration, by Department of Homeland Security, some 3,700 more or less, are what they call threat level 1 criminals. They've been allowed to go. Many of them have been given a court date to appear. But these are people like that have committed rape and murder and very violent crimes. Being a Southern California resident and person who practiced law, does this bother you at all?
You know, I think the report that came out, it was by a reporter from the Washington Times, which is a very conservative publication. I think it is a way to scare the public, in essence. The criminals that were released are released on a case-by-case basis. This is not just a mass release of violent criminals. There was a 2001 Supreme Court ruling that stated that the government couldn't hold illegal immigrants for more than 6 months without a hearing in which they showed that these people were in fact a danger to society or posed a flight risk.
But these are the worst of the worst we're talking here, right? I mean, we're talking people who have committed murder. They're obviously gang members are included in there. These are people who could unleash their mayhem on you in Southern California and your friends and your family. Don't worry about that.
I don't necessarily believe the veracity of the report that came out by the reporter. I believe his name is Stephen Dinan of the the Washington Times. I would question, again, this mass release of these criminals. I think the courts look at each case on a case-by-case basis, and decisions are made. There are mitigating factors such as the age of the person involved, if the person is aging and no longer poses a risk, as well as other mitigating factors of health concerns, whether or not they can adequately care for the people that they are detaining.
So you don't think this is purely political on the part of the Obama administration to further the unconstitutional amnesty that he's trying to impose on the public?
Not at all. And I don't believe it is an unconstitutional amnesty. The president took executive action for a deferral of deportation. That's all that's done. Unlike a lot of reports that have come out that he's taken unilateral action to make citizens of these illegal immigrants, that's not what's happening. The executive branch does not have that power.
Can you cite in the Constitution his authority to do so? Love to hear it.
The president has the authority to defer action, which is all that's been done. So, in essence, the Congress has to pass a bill, which they haven't been able to do. They've been gridlocked. They refuse to pass reformative legislation with immigration, or they're unable to do so. The president is just asking that we not deport millions of people without looking at each case, especially in cases where children were brought here without, not through their own will, and they've gone to school here, they are now working here, and now they're being forced to be deported without looking at those cases. And all he's done is defer that action for a period of 3 years.
I get those talking points, but the bottom line is the president of the United States does not have the constitutional authority to write his own law. And that's what the case in the Fifth Circuit, in the end, is going to be all about. We're out of time. Parwana, thank you.
Thank you.